In the year 1887, in the rural village of Thornhill, a house stood abandoned at the end of a crooked lane. The villagers spoke of it in hushed tones, warning children to steer clear of its rotting gates and vine-choked walls. The house, known as Whistling Pines, had a dark history that stretched back generations. Eleanor Hawthorne, a widow from London, had recently inherited Whistling Pines from a distant uncle she barely remembered. With no other family and seeking a place to escape the bustle of city life, she decided to move into the old manor, despite the villagers' superstitious warnings. Eleanor arrived on a cold, misty morning. The house loomed ahead, its once grand facade now decayed and foreboding. She felt a shiver as she crossed the threshold, but dismissed it as a result of the damp and chilly air. The interior was filled with dust-covered furniture and cobwebs, remnants of a life long past. Her first few nights in the house were eerily quiet, save for the constant creaking of the timbers and the distant hoot of an owl. Eleanor explored the rooms, uncovering old portraits, letters, and family relics. She found a diary belonging to her uncle, filled with strange entries about sleepless nights and shadowy figures. One evening, as Eleanor was reading in the drawing room, she heard a faint whistling. It was a melancholy tune, carried on the wind, though no breeze stirred the curtains. The sound seemed to come from within the walls themselves. She searched the house but found nothing amiss. Shaking off her unease, she returned to her book. The whistling grew more frequent, accompanied by soft footsteps in the halls. Eleanor began to lose sleep, haunted by unsettling dreams of a woman in white wandering the corridors, her face hidden beneath a veil. Desperate for answers, she delved deeper into her uncle's diary. In its final pages, she discovered the truth. Her uncle had been tormented by the spirit of his late wife, Margaret, who had died under mysterious circumstances. The villagers believed she had been murdered, though no proof was ever found. Her restless spirit was said to haunt the house, seeking vengeance for her untimely death. Determined to put an end to the haunting, Eleanor decided to confront the spirit. She waited until midnight, the hour when the whistling was loudest. Armed with nothing but a candle and her courage, she followed the sound to the attic. There, in the dim light, she saw the ghostly figure of Margaret. Her pale form shimmered, and her eyes were dark pits of sorrow. Eleanor spoke softly, telling the spirit that she wanted to help, that she wanted to understand. Margaret's spectral hand pointed to a loose floorboard. Eleanor pried it open and found a small, dusty box. Inside was a blood-stained locket and a letter, detailing how Margaret had discovered her husband's infidelity and had been poisoned to keep her silent. Eleanor knew what she had to do. She took the letter and locket to the village magistrate. The evidence was irrefutable, and her uncle's crime was finally exposed. The villagers, shocked but relieved, helped Eleanor lay Margaret to rest in the churchyard with proper rites. The whistling ceased, and the footsteps faded. Whistling Pines, now free of its ghostly inhabitant, seemed brighter and more welcoming. Eleanor stayed on, turning the house into a place of refuge for herself and others. The legend of the unquiet house became a distant memory, a story to tell around the fire on stormy nights. But every now and then, on particularly cold and misty evenings, some claimed they could still hear a faint, sorrowful whistle, as if the wind itself remembered Margaret's lament.